Okay, I'm back, and let me erase this. You can see I'm really professional in everything that I do up here. All right, there we go. I'm hoping to be discovered by Hollywood, but I haven't gotten the phone call yet. Anyway, here we've got linear. What is it that causes linear motion? And that's going to be a force. So what is a force? Now, we're not talking about Star Wars. As much as I would like to talk about Star Wars, we're not going to talk about it. But a force is going to be a push or a pull. So whenever you push on a refrigerator, you're exerting a force on it. Whenever you pull in like a tug of war, you're exerting a force on the rope. Now, we're going to abbreviate the concept of force with the letter F. Now, by the way, I encourage you to have a piece of paper, and that you should be keeping a list of all of these different concepts that we talk about, and then what are the units that go next to them, because that will really help you whenever you have to solve word problems. It will help you to be able to figure out which formula that you need to use. So what have we done so far? So on your list, we've talked about distance, which was the letter R, and then the unit was the meter. Then we talked about what speed was, or velocity, and its unit was the meter per second. And then we talked about what acceleration was, and that was in meters per second squared. And now we're talking about forces. So F for force, and then the unit is going to be called the Newton. So named after Sir Isaac Newton. So this is the official metric unit for force. Now, in case you want to know, well, exactly what is a Newton, well, down there in the notes, I've got that 0.22 pounds would feel like 1 Newton. So if you had 1 Newton in this hand and you had 2.2 pounds in this hand, they would feel about the same. Or the weight of a stick of butter is approximately equal to 0.22 pounds. So that's what a force does, but what are some kinds of forces? So there are 4 fundamental forces that I want you to know about. So the first one, gravity, okay? The next fundamental force of the universe is going to be electricity and magnetism. When you put those together, that's electromagnetism. So that's the second fundamental force. And then there are 2 more that operate inside the nucleus. You got the strong nuclear force and then the weak nuclear force. So ultimately, these are the 4 forces that hold the universe together. There's also some other forces. Later on in the course, we're going to talk about centripetal force. And so that is going to be related to the force that you feel whenever you're in a car and you make a sharp right-hand turn and it feels like you're being thrown outwards. So that's called centrifugal force, and that's ultimately being caused by the centripetal force. So we're going to look at some other forces as the semester progresses. Now, what can forces do? So we've already mentioned this one here. Now, if you look at that closely, you should notice that as this thing is falling, its speed is changing. Because after all, when it's in my hand, how fast is it going? 0, okay? And you see that it has a new speed as it's falling. It's accelerating. Its speed is changing. So forces cause things to accelerate. Now next to it, you see that forces can also change the direction that something is going in. So that if you've got a billiard ball that's going this way and another billiard ball that's going this way, when they hit, they change directions. So this billiard ball exerted a force on this billiard ball. And then the third one is that they can change the shape of an object. Now this is pretty cool, because later in our video series we're going to talk about geology, and one of the things that happens in geology is that carbon dioxide, CO2, mixes with ocean water, and so it makes a substance called calcite, which precipitates to the bottom of the ocean floor, and it's going to make layer after layer after layer of limestone, which is a sedimentary rock. Now notice those lines are all parallel, so that when limestone forms on the bottom of the ocean floor, it's going to make these parallel lines of limestone. Well, now take a look at that picture there. So that's a picture of some mountains, and if you look closely at the mountains, they're doing something like this. Do you see how the layers of limestone have been kind of folded like an accordion? And so imagine the amount of force that it must have taken in order to take those layers of limestone and fold them like that. So we'll learn more about that. That's going to be called plate tectonics, and we'll learn about that in probably another 10 episodes or something like that. Okay, so let's take a break here, and when we come back we are going to talk about what mass is.